Why is our society so obsessed with with perfection, and scared of imperfection? And I'm trying to figure this question out for a while now as I work on myself and my new journey in my work. And thankfully, today there's an abundance of not only great thought leaders, but information and wisdom out there about how we can't and shouldn't shoot for perfection because it doesn't exist. And I think this is one of those notions that we know in the back of our minds or in the bottom of our hearts. There's no such thing as perfect, but our behavior doesn't dictate that or doesn't show that feeling. We get fearful of putting something out there, whether it's work related or personal or trying to do something, unless circumstances or the product itself or the project itself is perfect. And unfortunately, what that does is it prevents us from making progress and taking a lot of the steps that we need to take. And we're just obsessed with it. And it's a story. I'm learning this through my coaches, through the work that I do, and just learning and studying and watching others, that it really harms us when we think about something needing to be perfect or ourselves. Which brings me into the other side of it too with people. Is number one, we can't compare or think of ourselves as wanting to be anything remotely close to perfection. In fact, one thing I've learned in my journey, even doing videos like this, that part of the fun and part of the whole process of learning is doing things that are far from perfect or short of perfect and imperfect and just putting it out there because we learn from it and we get better. But also, we have a tendency to compare ourselves to others, and we think, right, because we idolize celebrities and movie stars and musicians, we think they're perfect on some levels. We know they all have faults, but we choose to look at, and we're brainwashed on social media and magazine covers and news to often only see the really good side. The home runs they hit, the touchdowns they score, the music hits they have, the great movies they produce and all that. Just fine. But we got to remember that they're not perfect, we're not perfect. And in fact, I would suggest or go so far as to say that one of the things we need to keep in perspective these days is that we forget today's world, everything's out there. Everything we do and say, for the most part, is public. And back in the day, whatever that might be, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 60 years ago, it's all the same. That wasn't the case. So people that we used to, or society used to idolize, like Elvis Presley, Michael Jackson, presidents like JFK and Roosevelt, and athletes like Ted Williams and Joe DiMaggio, all these people had faults. I bet you that if those people I just named and many others lived in today's era of social media and nothing really being private, we would see tons of faults with them. And these are people that we've and other generations before us idolized. And again, it's fine to look up to people, but we have to remain and remember and keep perspective that nobody's perfect. We shouldn't go for perfect. We ourselves should be working only on our journey and what we can do, what we can put out there, and what value we can provide. And on the flip side too, we're so critical of others today. All of us, we're critical of others, of peers of ours, of famous people, of politicians, and I have a sore spot in my heart for politicians these days. All of them. They're not really helping us. They're out to help themselves. But we're very critical of all the above. And, we're critical because we have more access to them. And we know everything they say, they think, and they do often. And we didn't have that kind of access to people back in the day. And I think it's important that we remember that if we did have that access to people back 30, 40, 50 years ago with the Elvises and the Michael Jacksons even, and then we knew a little bit more about him at the end of his life, and presidents like Kennedy and Roosevelt, who certainly they did a lot of great things, but they were very flawed people. And you know what? The people today are very flawed. We're all flawed. And I just think it would be good to have a little perspective on everybody's always had imperfections. Nobody's perfect. We just see more of it today. And maybe most importantly, we should live up to working on our journey and getting better and accept our imperfections and get rid of that story that perfect is even obtainable. It's not. It's not attainable. Let's just put ourselves out there and do the best that we can. So that's a thought I wanted to share today. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back again real soon with another nugget of wisdom, and maybe with a little. Speaking of perfect, by the way, it's perfect weather out today, and I hope you're enjoying it wherever you are on this August sunny day, late August. Thanks. Bye.